This event took place in July of last year. My house was experiencing significant issues, leaving me without power for several days while repairs were underway. Since I worked from home, this became a major problem, leading me to rent an Airbnb for a few days until the power was restored. I don't reside in a large city, so nearby Airbnb options were limited. The closest one at a reasonable price was about a 45-minute drive from my house. It was in a smaller, more isolated area of the city, which was often considered an undesirable place to live. Nevertheless, I was only planning to stay for a few days, and the savings made it worthwhile. Upon arrival, I went straight inside and headed to bed, exhausted from the ongoing issues at my house. The next morning, I woke up early and began setting up my laptop and workspace. Just before starting work, there was a knock at the door. I hesitated to open it since it wasn't my house, but thinking it might be the host, I decided to check. On the porch stood a man, probably in his early 30s, covered in tattoos. He didn't look like an Airbnb host or even a salesperson. Uncertain about his reason for being there and not wanting to find out, I chose to ignore it. I returned to my desk, finished getting ready, and started working. I had several meetings and needed to catch up on work from the past few days. I didn't leave the desk until 8 p.m., and even then, I considered returning to work after grabbing dinner. A few minutes after I returned and started eating, there was another knock at the door. I immediately checked and wasn't surprised to see the same man from earlier. What could he possibly want from me this late? Feeling more irritated than concerned, I again chose to ignore it and went back to my dinner. After 30 minutes, around 10 p.m., I decided to work for another hour despite my tiredness. I knew delaying the work would only increase my stress. I put my headphones in and focused for the next hour. Once satisfied with my progress, I finally closed my laptop for the night. I hadn't realized how dark it had gotten. The laptop screen was the only light I had on. I went to the front and turned on the light, and a chill ran through me. There were faint but unmistakable shoe prints going down the front hallway, all over the place, even right up behind the desk where I had been working. Terrified, I followed the prints down to the back door, which was slightly open. Pure horror washed over me, and moments later, I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. They were slow and careful. When they reached the bottom, a man peered into the hallway and looked directly at me. It was the same man, easily recognizable by his tattoos, and his face shifted from surprise to rage. He showed no other emotion besides irritation and anger. I tried to speak, but no words came out. My heart pounded in my chest as I turned and sprinted out the back door. I ran through the backyard into some trees behind the houses. Sitting behind a tree, I pulled out my phone and started dialing 911, but stopped when I heard footsteps running toward me. I didn't expect him to follow, but fortunately, he passed by without seeing me, continuing to run into the dark. Once I contacted the police, I went back to the Airbnb and waited for them. I provided a detailed description of the man, and they found him the next day. His tattoos confirmed his identity. He had broken into several homes in the days leading up to this, committing horrible acts. I don't know what he intended for me or why he initially left me alone, but I'm relieved knowing he can't harm anyone else now. I had booked an Airbnb weeks in advance in a town I'd never visited. I was meeting a client for work in the area, staying for just a day before driving back home. The drive was 3 hours. When I arrived, the neighborhood was very quiet, with most house lights off and trees covering the lawns, blocking much of the view. I only saw a person walking down the road, though nothing seemed off. It gave me a strange feeling. I unlocked the door, went inside, and settled in. It was a very average house, but perfect for my needs. After checking the place out, I went to get my other bag from the car. Stepping onto the porch, I noticed someone standing in the road. It was the same person I saw walking earlier, now just standing and facing the Airbnb. As I walked toward my car, they noticed me and started walking away. Feeling suspicious, I kept an eye on them but saw them continue down the street. I went back inside, locked up, and pulled my car into the garage for safety. Over the next few hours, I periodically checked outside but didn't see the person again. Having to get up early, I went to bed and slept decently, though I woke up a few times. At 4 a.m., my alarm went off, and I groggily noticed a light under the bedroom door. I didn't remember leaving any lights on and thought I must have overlooked one. As I approached the door, I heard something moving at the end of the hallway. Opening the door, I saw the living room light on, which I knew I had turned off. The sound continued as I walked down the hallway. In the living room, a man was searching through one of my bags. He wore a black hoodie and ripped jeans, just like the person I saw walking. He didn't look startled, but almost as if he was expecting me. He dropped the bag, yelled at me to stay put, and started walking toward me. I quickly ran back to the room, slammed the door shut just before he caught up, and heard him trying to kick the door down and messing with the lock. I opened a window, jumped out, and ran away. By the time police arrived, the man was gone, and so were my bags. The bedroom door was open, indicating he had picked the lock. If I had stayed and hidden, who knows what might have happened. Police believed there was more intent behind his actions than just robbery, so I pray he doesn't find me again. I was on a road trip from Portland to Chicago, nearly a 3-day drive, and had booked Airbnbs along the route. The first Airbnb was in Wyoming, in a small town. As I crossed into Wyoming, it started snowing heavily. By the time I reached the town, the roads were covered in snow, and the sun had set. It was a quiet town, exactly how I imagined a small town in Wyoming. Hoping for a quick dinner, I realized there wouldn't be any fast food places. I drove through the town to the Airbnb, a small home in a field with tall snow-covered pine trees. I parked, got out with my bag, and went inside. It was a small, 500 square foot house, perfect for the night. As I settled on the couch, I heard a thump from the bedroom. I checked the room and the small bathroom, but everything seemed normal. The only other door was the bedroom closet, which seemed locked from the other side. Assuming it was a maintenance closet, I returned to the living room. After 15 minutes, I checked the window and saw it was still snowing heavily outside. Shutting the blinds, I noticed a shadow move in the bedroom, like a door opening or closing. I checked the room but found nothing unusual. I grabbed the closet handle, and it opened easily. Inside was empty, but before I could process, I heard someone behind me. A large, beaten man with cuts and scratches stood in the bathroom doorway. Without looking at me, he grabbed a dirty duffel bag from under the bed and walked out the front door. I saw him trail through the snow until he was out of sight. The police were involved, but I didn't get any more information. I think he was just using the place to sleep, but his appearance makes me second guess that. I can't imagine what might have happened if I had gone to bed with him hiding in the closet.